Formula One is the fastest, most extreme form of sanctioned single-seat auto racing in the world. It's truly the sport of kings, where ultra-rich teams build expensive, low-flying death machines posing as automobiles, race in extreme conditions, and receive huge payouts. But the sport also has its share of secrets, from illegal craftsmanship to outright corruption. Here's what you may not know about Formula One. More plane than car. In modern F1, it's all about one thing: downforce. Like an airplane, F1 cars use wings to create a difference in air pressure. But while planes do this to create lift, F1 cars do the opposite,
sucking the car to the track and thus allowing more grip and higher cornering speeds.
Before 1970, engineers experimented with unrestricted wings on Formula One cars, resulting in some absolutely insane accidents. Afterward, rules were put into place, but they didn't stop such cars as the monstrous fan-cooled BT-46, which was banned after just one race. Even more restrictions were put in place as a result, so today's car designers must work within a set of very strict rules to prevent their cars from flying away from the competition. Crazy cars. In the early days of F1, experimentation led to some crazy cars. Take, for example, the Thursday car, McLaren's otherwise beautiful cigar-shaped orange racer with two obnoxiously stupid wings held way up in the air on struts. The M7C's front wing, raised well above the driver's head, was quickly banned, going down in the history books as the guillotine, given the obviously dangerous possibility that such a front wing could, if jarred loose, slice a racer's head clean off. And then there's the incredibly ugly Leger JS5, not to mention the six-wheeled Terrell P34, for when four wheels just aren't enough. Gone are the days of bizarre experimentation and absurd car designs. In today's Formula One, every car looks more or less the same, with racing technology simply occupying an entirely different space than it did 40 years ago. Good for racing, bad for belly laughs. Cars for cash. In 2016, Sauber and Force India put in a formal complaint with the European Union over how Formula One doles out its $1 billion worth of sponsorship cash. For example, Ferrari earns $70 million just for showing up. That's only part of their annual Formula One revenue, which totals almost $200 million, way more than the bottom 5 teams' earnings combined. As a result, top teams like Mercedes, Williams, Red Bull, and McLaren dominate every competition, with the rest of the teams perpetually struggling just to fill out the field. It's no surprise that teams with less money routinely finish last. Then there's political corruption, with human rights activists decrying Formula One's decision to hold a race in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, which is notorious for corruption and political imprisonment. According to the Panama Papers, Azerbaijan's government hopes to cover over their human rights violations through the spectacle of sport, and F1 has been happy to assist, provided they get a big enough paycheck. When it comes down to it, Formula One simply races by their own rules, and rule number 1, make that money. Fit to drive. People tend to not think of drivers as the most fit of all athletes in the sports world, but Formula One pilots maintain insane physical shape. Formula One drivers tend to favor cardiovascular workouts over strength training, but they do build up the most important muscles of all, the neck and chest. Because the G-forces present when turning an F1 car can make the driver's helmet and head weigh more than 5 times its actual weight, strong neck muscles are of vital importance. Also crucial are a driver's arms and core, as steering one of those low-flying aircraft over the course of a race is pretty intense. Plus, F1 racers have to stay insanely hydrated, as they lose up to 6 pounds during the race while sitting in cockpits that can reach 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Luckily, they have a button-activated injection system that squirts a nutrient-laden isotonic fluid right into their mouths. But that's nothing compared to what comes out.
Do Formula One drivers urinate inside the car?
I know a lot of them who do, yes.
Even you do?
Not until now.
The most dangerous game. Formula One is currently a dangerous sport, but it used to be an absolute death trap. Author Robert Smith told the BBC, "In the 50s, there wasn't a safety culture. It was just after the Second World War. People were used to the idea that people could die, and I think people found it almost acceptable. Even seatbelts, the most basic safety precaution, weren't required until 1972. As a result, 29 Formula One drivers lost their lives during the 1960s, while 18 perished in the 1970s. It wasn't until Ayrton Senna's fatal crash in 1994 that safety finally became Formula One's priority. Wacky races. Held in Britain in 1950, the first ever Formula One championship was a weird affair. Not only did King George VI attend, but there was nobility on the track as well, with a Thai prince and a Swiss baron driving cars. And they weren't the only semi-pros in the field. A jazz musician named Johnny Clays finished 11th. Perhaps the oddest moment of the race, though, was when an unlucky rabbit hopped onto the track and was pulverized by an Alfa Romeo. All in all, the race was like some real-life version of Wacky races, and we sometimes long for the bizarreness that made early Formula One so spectacular. Speaking of which, Jaguar once lost a $300,000 diamond. At the 2004 Monaco Grand Prix, Christian Klein drove a special Jaguar fitted with a $300,000 diamond in its nose as a promotional stunt for the film Ocean's 12. Unfortunately, he crashed during his first lap, and the gem popped out of its socket and vanished forever. The Austrian driver told the media, "That will be the most expensive drive I'll ever take around Monte Carlo." Whoops. Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.